Hello. If you're watching this presentation, then there's a pretty good chance that you saw Avengers Endgame in theaters. You're probably thinking, that's really random, and not a lot of correlation could be made between those two things. But some quick research on Box Office Mojo, one of the major databases for movie theater box office data, shows that Avengers Endgame made $2.8 billion at the box office. My point is that many of you watching can probably remember a time when Avengers Endgame took the world by storm, and everyone was seeing it and talking about it. Popular review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes calculates the percentage of positive reviews a film receives. On their website, Endgame has a 94% positive critic score and a 90% positive audience score. It's no secret that people enjoyed this film. Now, I'm not here to talk about the cultural impact of Avengers Endgame for 8 minutes. I'm here to talk about the experience of watching the film. I'm here to tell you that it's up to younger Americans like us to help save movie theaters. According to Variety, as of November 2024, over 56 million Americans were subscribed to Disney+, a streaming service that hosts a large variety of Marvel films, Star Wars films, and almost the entire library of Disney films and shows. When Avengers Endgame came out, Disney Plus simply didn't exist yet. So instead of sitting on their couch to watch this big new movie, millions of Americans showed up in droves to thousands of movie theaters across America to see Endgame. In 2019, the movie industry seemed to be thriving. In fact, in 2019, 9 movies grossed over $1 billion. In the 5 years since then, we've only seen 9 movies total gross $1 billion. The peak year was 2024 with 3. If you look at the previous 5-year period of 2015 to 2019, we had 27 movies gross at least $1 billion. Now, I don't want to just keep throwing numbers out there to make my point. It's very clear there was an obvious decline in the industry, and people just aren't showing up to theaters as much as they used to. The most obvious reason, of course, is due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, an article from NPR shows that movie theaters in 2020 were off to a hot start. And over President's Day weekend, the domestic box office made over $160 million. 5 weeks later, the weekend of March 20th to 22nd, the box office made $4,000. Because of the pandemic and lockdowns, nobody wanted to leave their houses and share space with others, causing studios to pull their films from theaters and theaters being forced to shut down. In fact, I can still remember seeing Pixar's Onward on March 16th, 2020, and watching the employees take down the posters of upcoming films. Studios kept delaying theatrical releases. NPR explains in their article that Hollywood is still struggling to come back from the pandemic decline. This article provides some data saying that in the first 9 weeks of 2025, the box office made $1.09 billion, an improvement over 2024, but this article also mentions that it isn't close to the first 9 weeks of 2020, before COVID, where $1.67 billion were made. It is increasingly obvious that the movie industry is in trouble. One article from wolfstreet.com uses another data provider called The Numbers to show that in 2023, 854 million movie tickets were sold, which I will admit kind of sounds like a lot, until you compare it to 2019, where 1.23 billion tickets were sold. The last ticket data that I'll bring up for now comes from a Forbes article from June 2024 that mentions that the box office for the entirety of May 2024 was $520 million, the lowest it has been since May 1998, almost 30 years ago. Other issues arise from movie studios electing to distribute their new films directly to streaming services, such as films like Dune, The Suicide Squad, and Godzilla vs. Kong being simultaneous releases with their theatrical runs on HBO Max, or the Knives Out sequel Glass Onion being a direct Netflix release, despite the original grossing over $300 million on a $40 million budget in late 2019. Even Disney did something like this, with Pixar releasing 3 original films, Luca, Soul, and Turning Red, on Disney Plus between 2021 and 2022, all films which were supposed to have standard theatrical releases. With all the success of streaming services and the decline of theaters due to the pandemic, there are many signs of movie theaters as a whole being in jeopardy. If we lose movie theaters, we will lose the feeling of when huge movies release in theaters and just being together with tons of people and celebrating the art of making films. Like, for example, when Barbie and Oppenheimer released in 2023 on the same day, and many people packed the theater for those, some even doing a fun little double feature called Barbenheimer. Barbie and Oppenheimer made $1.4 billion and $975 million, respectively. These two films easily would not have had the same cultural impact if they were released directly to a streaming service in a world with no movie theaters. Now, I'd like to shift off talking about these depressing numbers and instead give you guys 3 strategies to enjoy theaters and to show studios that people will still show up and help bring back the once great environment of going to the movies. Now, I know some movie theaters and some tickets have gotten really expensive, so the first idea is to utilize value days at movie theaters. Regal, AMC, and Cinemark are the 3 biggest theater chains in America. They each have about 500 locations across the U.S. Each of these major theater chains offer value days on Tuesdays, allowing guests to see movies for cheaper than a standard ticket price. Now, for the rest of this speech, when talking about major chains, I'm going to use Regal Cinemas for my examples, as Regal Waterford Lakes and Regal Oviedo Mall are in close proximity to UCF, as well as tons of other Regals in the area. For Regal's value days, if you sign up for Regal Crown Club, their free account system, which you can access from their app, you can get tickets for $6.99 every Tuesday to see all standard releases. They also offer 50% off on popcorn every Tuesday for members. You're also able to see premium formats like IMAX and 4DX for a discounted price on Tuesdays. These cheap days are a great way to get back into the theater and test the waters to see if you want to come more often. Now, if you decide that these value days are nice and want to get back into seeing new releases more frequently, this leads directly into my second strategy, and a way to see movies for much cheaper than paying about $17, which is Regal's standard ticket price every time you want to see something. This is the use of movie theater subscriptions. For the price of $24.49 a month, or the price of about 1.5 tickets, you can see unlimited standard movies. This is for Regal's service called Regal Unlimited, and then AMC has a similar program called AMC A-List. But simply, you can see unlimited movies for the price of seeing less than 2 movies. As long as you see at least 2 films a month, you can start saving a ton of money on tickets. Personally, I've been subscribed to Regal Unlimited since the summer of 2022, and as of March 30th, 2025, I have seen 90 movies with it. If I paid for 90 standard tickets, I would have spent roughly $1,500 on tickets, but thanks to Regal Unlimited, for subscribing for just about 3 years, I've spent about $800 on my subscription, which is over $700 in savings on tickets. I can't always make it to 2 movies a month, but with how much I've been using my subscription, it still averages to seeing almost 3 movies a month, meaning I've still saved a lot of money. Now, this is still a lot of money to some college students, which is why the value days are also a perfect thing to utilize. The last strategy to help movie theaters stay afloat is supporting local theaters. One local theater is called Enzian. It's a nonprofit art house single-screen movie theater that shows select new releases with tickets for $12.50 and $11 for students. They also show indie films and older cult classic releases and do plenty of fun events to show old releases. In fact, I once saw a showing of The Princess Bride in Winter Park on a huge outdoor screen for free through them. We also have a smaller regional chain about 20 minutes from UCF, which is called Epic Theaters. They show all new releases for $11.50 on weekdays and $12.91 on weekends. They offer comfortable recliner seats. Premier Cinemas, another small chain in the Fashion Square Mall, shows new releases for $9 every day. There are plenty of ways to see new movies for cheaper than the bigger chains offer, and they may provide a more easygoing experience due to how much less crowded they are than the bigger chains. I hope that all this information helps bring you all back into the movie theater and can help revitalize a great American pastime back into what it once was. See you all in the theater.